What's up, y'all? Welcome to another episode of FitBizU. I'm your host, Jill Coleman, and today we are going to talk about objection handling. When I say that, maybe you already feel icky. Maybe you're already like, ooh. And I agree with you. I always tell my students that if like, you're having to like force an objection and like overcome it in real time on a sales call, it's probably too late. And I know that you guys don't like doing that. And believe me, if you're on the other end of a sales call, you don't like that either. But I have some students who are doing a lot of sales calls because they are using like many chat automations or they're using like setters and closers and they have like big teams of coaches. And so they do a lot of one-on-one coaching. And in order to do that, they have to do a lot of sales calls. And I want to give you guys a little bit of context before we get into this. The reason why I want to talk about this is because I do think there is a way to handle because sales calls. And by the way, you guys, like when you're on a sales call with someone, just at a high level, I think it's always good to remember that two things. Number one, this is just another person on the other end, and all you're doing is having a conversation. The only part of a sales call that actually makes it a sale is when you extend an offer and you say the price. Other than that, up until that point, it is literally you just talking with someone and they're just telling you the shit that they're struggling with. Like that's really it. And so that's number one. The second thing that I think sometimes we forget is when we're on a sales call, it's not just sell them at any cost. It's literally like you have to think to yourself, do I even think I can help this person? Is this person someone I would like to work with? Is this someone who I think I can really help? Like we have to really filter through that. I think it's easy, especially in the beginning when you're like, well, I don't have as many clients as I would like, or maybe I just got my first sales call. Sales calls can feel really high stakes, right? It can feel like, oh my God, I need this to work because I need this money. So I think sometimes that we forget when we're in that headspace of sort of like scarcity and urgency that we kind of forget to filter them through too. So sometimes when my clients say like, "Hey, what would you do in this scenario?" or "Here's a screenshot from our DMs. What would you do here?" Sometimes I'm like, why are you even trying to sell this person? Like literally. And I don't say it in a mean way. I'm just like, this person is clearly not a good fit. This person, you will be like having to pull this person, like, and it's not that the person is bad, but it's just like, this ain't for you. That's a red flag. That's a red flag. That's a red flag. Like, we don't have to sell everybody every time on the top price thing. I think we really have to start being discerning on our calls. I will be truthful. I don't do a ton of sales calls because you guys know I do launches. So we do have sales calls as part of our launch, but we have team members that do them. Danny Coleman does them, Danny J does them, Amber Shaw does them, all of which have been in the Jill Fit family for years. They know, they know me, they've worked with me, they know the programs inside and out. And so we really feel confident. We're not just like bringing on anyone and like having them actually do sales calls. These people really understand our program and they're part of the team. So, but I have done a bunch of sales calls, especially in the first like maybe 4 or 5 times I launched FBA. I was doing all sales calls, and I don't mean to brag, but also I usually close like probably 9% of my sales calls. But the reason why, oftentimes, is because I don't come in with like an energy of I need to sell this person. I literally am just like I want to see if I can help this person, and I'm very confident that if I believe I can help the person, I tell them that. Like I'm like I got you. Like I know. I totally get where you're coming from. I've worked with this situation a million times. I know exactly what you need and I feel confident saying that. But I think like there's different types of buyers and I want to get into this a little bit. There are what's called low information buyers and high information buyers. I am a low information buyer, meaning I know what I want. And if I just go ahead, I know what I need and I go and I find the person doing it the best. And then I just get on a sales call and I'm already sold. Like I'm literally the easiest person to sell. Like I don't know if I told you guys the story, but we purchased a $6,000 course. It was like a course and kind of like a little bit of mentorship from a company called School of Bots, which helps like teach many chat automations and things like that. And I remember a friend of mine was telling me about it and they were like, oh, School of Bots is awesome, this and that. And like shout out to Natasha, done a great job. And they were saying that it was a kind of a done for you service and it was like $10,000 a month. And I was like, okay, that's a lot of money, right? It's like 6 figures worth. So I'm going into the sales call with them thinking they're going to pitch me on a $10,000 offer. And so I had already like sort of priced anchored high and I'm kind of like on the sales call and I'm like, all right, Russ, you get pitched the $10,000 offer. And he goes, okay, it's very expensive. And I was like, okay. And I'm kind of thinking, okay, yeah, it is expensive, 10 grand a month. And he goes, it's $6,000. And I go, one time? And he goes, yeah. And I was like, oh, we're in. So, like, for me, I usually go in knowing if I'm going to be a yes. So, I typically don't get on a sales call with someone unless I know that I'm in because I'm just more discerning. I want you guys to be this way too. When you're thinking about hiring a business coach, you're being in a mastermind or mentorship, like you should already know the person that you want to work with. That way, it's like when they create the container for you, it's just like, yes, this is a yes for me. It's not even a hard sell. And so, I think if we can start to do more of that, and like again get people to the point where they are already bought in, so much of that happens before the sales call even happens. So meaning you're building trust, you're showing up consistently, people already know you, you're sharing openly, you're sharing authentically, people know what your values are, so that by the time they get on the phone, chances are they're a yes. When we do our FBA sales calls, we do close over 80% of our sales because people wouldn't get on the phone if they weren't already interested. Oftentimes people just want a little bit of a reassurance, right? They're already like 80% sold, 90% sold. They're just like have one little question about their own situation and want to make doubly, triply sure that it's going to work for them. And that is totally valid. So some people are low information buyers, some people are high information buyers. And oftentimes you will get people on who are high information buyers. Now, these people just want to make sure, doubly sure that it's going to work for them. They may in the past have experienced buyer's remorse. In the past, maybe they've had bad experiences with coaches. They need to know that success is possible for them. So for these folks, we probably have to work a little bit harder. Like again, I told you I'm a low information buyer. I think there's only been one sales call I've ever been on as the person buying when I didn't buy. And that was when I got on the phone with Hermosi's team last year. And the price tag was $125,000. And I was very much like, yeah, we have that money, but I don't want to spend that on this. So for me, that was the first time I think I've ever gone on a sales call and turned it down. And one of the questions he asked me on the call was, he was like, okay, so this is just like a money thing. Yeah. And he goes, do you see the ROI? And I said, yeah. I said, but I just joined another mastermind for 25,000. It's just like not the right time. It's like, and yes, I see that this is valuable, but clearly this is just like, and some people will just not have the cash. And so I want to have a more nuanced conversation about sales calls today, because I think if you go to someone who's like a sales guru or something, they'll be like, do not let someone get off the phone by saying no. It's like, and it's also like, no one likes that. You don't like that. They don't like that. And if it's meant to be, believe me, there are plenty of fucking clients out there who are going to be hell yeses for you. So number one, filter it through like, okay, this is just a conversation. Right? I don't even have to extend an offer to this person if I don't think it's going to be a good fit. I've definitely been like, hey, given all of this, I honestly don't think I'm the best person to help you. Here's who you should go work with. And I will send people to other folks because I'm just like, it would be a disservice to pitch them on something that's not going to be a good fit for them. And it's bad for me if it's not a right fit for them. The second thing is realizing that you don't have to sell every single person. It could just be not a fit. It's just like, this person is not who I want to work with. Maybe there are already too many red flags. And again, that's not like a dig on them. It's just like there may be a better coach for them. And if you're already seeing signs of them like not being bought in or like fighting you on stuff, you might be like, this person already feels high maintenance. I don't want this because I know from history how much mental energy and emotional bandwidth this is going to take up for me. And frankly, that's just not fair to my other clients that are easy. And so when we get on a call, I never want you guys to coerce. I never want you to guilt. I never want you to shame. I never want you to like push on people's pain points to the point where like, and maybe you guys have heard this before, I fucking hate this when we see it, like when they cry, they buy. Now, people may cry on the phone if you talk to them about their struggles. They may get emotional, but that shouldn't be the goal. It shouldn't be like we get to get them to cry because we want them in that like broken down emotional state when they say yes. It's like, no, I want my people to have rational minds when they say yes to me. I don't want them to be like so broken down that they just like give me their last penny. That's terrible. And I also don't want that fucking responsibility. And so instead, what we do on a sales call, first and foremost, is we realize that we go in just with an open mind. We don't know what's about to happen. And also remember, y'all, like number one, they're already on your team. They came to the call because they believe you may be able to help them. They're already hopeful. They're already on your team. They're already hopeful. Second thing to remember is they're probably more nervous than you are. So especially my newer students, they're so nervous to get on the phone. I'm like, this person is getting on the phone and they don't know what it's going to be. They don't know what number you're going to say. They don't know what commitment level it's going to be, right? Oftentimes they're more scared than you are. So it is your job on the sales call to always be in control. When I say in control, I mean make them feel safe, make them feel validated, empathize, listen, Instead of looking at your script to make sure you're saying the right thing at the right time in the right order, I want you to just listen to the person. Like, who is this person? What are their real struggles? When you are listening, you will ask questions that are more relevant. And you will be always thinking to yourself, like, can I help this person? Instead of like waiting to say the pitch, right? It's just like, no, listen to this person. And I think, however, I will say asterisk, if the sales call goes on longer than like 30 minutes, you're at this point, you're coaching. I will say you're probably coaching at this point. Maybe you know what I mean when you say, when maybe you're like feeling called out when I say that, because if the sales call is long, chances are you started to give them solutions. Like you started to be like, oh, well, how much protein you getting? And like you started like trying to coach them up a little bit. That's not what a sales call is for. A sales call is simply a fit call. Are we going to work together? Is it a fit for both of us? Is it a hell yes for both of us? It is not a sample of your coaching, right? Now, with that being said, what I mean is no solutions. Like, I don't want you being like, oh, you should download this app and you should get on this thing and here's a program and I'll send you a freebie. Like, none of that. The only part of it that is coaching is the empathy and the listening, right? And really being tuned into the validating their struggles. When I say validating, I don't mean pushing on their pain points. I mean like saying like, hey, this is really common, because they're scared. They're like, am I normal? They don't want to be judged. Maybe they've been judged in the past by other coaches. They've had bad experiences. So they're looking to you. Can this person hold it down? Can this person understand me? And do I believe that this person's process can help me? That is on a subconscious level what they are trying to understand and uh, eke out from this call. They want to get a feeling of like, is this the person that can help me? You have to come with the confidence. You have to come to the conviction that you can help them if you believe that you can. Asking yourself, and then be curious, ask questions. Well, oftentimes, especially when someone says, well, I want to talk to my husband. I think that's valid. That's fine, right? Like they don't have the husband on the call or they want to talk to their partner or whatever. One thing that I try to do in a situation like that is I try and get buy-in. And I think that this is really important, not only for overcoming the objection of like, I need to check with my husband, but oftentimes, and I can say this because I work with mostly women, if women, some people do want to ask their spouse, or maybe they feel like they have to ask their spouse. They have to ask their spouse permission. And some just want to give them a heads up, right? So that's fine. I'm not going to judge that. Everyone has their own relationship dynamics. But I always try to ask the person on the phone if they want to do it. Like, do you want to do it? I'm like, so I always say, so instead of them being like, well, I need to talk to my husband, I always say, okay, cool. And I say, well, first of all, before you do that, do you even want to do this? Because I need to get buy in from them. So if I'm like, like if he says yes or he's on board, or do you even want to do this? Is this something that you want? And that's a really valid question, because maybe they're just feeling sold to, and maybe they don't have the time to be like, yeah, this is something. And that's a really honest question. So do you want to do this? And if they say that they really want to do it, if I say something like, do you think this is valuable? Is this even something you want to do? And if they say, yes, I definitely want to do this, then I say, okay, well, let's talk about this real quick. What would your husband need to hear or see to be on board with that? So that's how I answer the husband question, because I try to make it like, okay, now we're a team. You're bought in, meaning you want to do it too. Again, this is not manipulating. It's just simply asking the person, like, is this something you want to do? You don't have to. Is this something that you're a hell yes for? So when they're like, I want to talk to my husband, you can say, cool, let's talk about that really quick. Let me just, because I want to know, are you even a hell yes? Before we even go to him, are you even a hell yes for this? And if they're like, yeah, and I'm like, okay, awesome. So I'm a hell yes for you. I say this right in the call. I'm a hell yes for you. You're a hell yes for this program. What does your husband need to see or hear or feel to be on board with what we want to do? So I make it like we're a team now. If she or if that person says they're in and I'm in, we're now a team. And we're together. We are going to the husband to have the conversation that we need to have so that he is on board and he's supportive. What does that need to look like? Because oftentimes, and one of my clients, shout out to Anne, she was like, oftentimes my client, when I'm on a sales call, they'll go to a husband and the husband will be like, why do you need to buy a coach? Like, just get an app, or we'll buy a Peloton, or like, we'll just download an app and like start tracking your food. Oftentimes the husband doesn't have the context that the wife has or that the partner has, because they're the ones on the phone having the conversation with you. So when there's no context and they just go to the husband and say it's this much, oftentimes the husband, sometimes, not oftentimes, but sometimes will be like, no, why would you do that? Because there's no context. They weren't on the phone. And so I like to just be like, first of all, before we even go to him, do you even want to do this? That's a really nice question. You're just basically getting buy-in. And there you're saying, like, I'm a hell yes for you, but I want to make sure you're hell yes. Because if you're not a hell yes, let's like not even go to your husband, right? Let's like not even take the next step. Again, abundance. And we're a team. We're making this decision together. I'm not selling you. We're deciding together if this is going to be the next step for your journey. It may not be, especially if you're not a hell yes, then it's not going to be. So I think that just lets the other person breathe when you say that, like when you put it back on them and you just ask them, then they get to breathe and they get a second to just pause and be like, yeah, do I want to do this? So, like for that, I really like that angle because then it addresses like what does your husband or partner need to hear or see so that they can be on board too? Because I'm on board, you're on board, but I want to make sure that of course, you want his support. I totally get that. What's going to be his biggest hang up? Let's talk about that. How can we get ready for this conversation? So that way, it's not like I'm selling you. It's like we're selling him together on this because we both think this is going to be your best next step. So I do think there's like a team aspect that can come into it when it comes to the husband objection. Now, for a money objection, the other biggest, of course, are going to be time and money. These are the biggest objections. Now, typically, if someone says it's a money objection, sometimes, yes. Do they just not have the dollars? Yes. When a Hermosi's thing is $125,000, I'm like, technically I have that money, but also that's not, I want to spend that money, right? It's like, yeah. So some people just like don't have it. And so I think when you see sales scripts that are like, well, is this really worth it to you? It's like, yes, yeah, maybe. I don't fucking know, right? Like it's just, it puts people in this weird thing to where they have to like justify their finances to you. And I think that feels gross all around. But what I do like is when someone says that they don't have it or it's too expensive, the way that you could actually know, is this a real money objection? Like for us for FBA, we have a lot of folks who just really want to do FBA, but are like, I can't make these payments. So one of the things we try and do in FBA is we try and do an extended financing offer. So we try and like make the payment smaller. And we know that it's not a value issue, that it truly is a financial issue when people take us up on the smaller payments, when they say thank you for making the payment smaller. I didn't think I was going to be able to do it. I really wanted to do it, and I didn't think I was going to be able to. But now, because the payments are smaller, I can do it. So that's one option. When someone says it's a money thing, you can always offer them an extended financing offer, or you can downsell into something cheaper. And when I say cheaper, I mean maybe shorter commitment. So instead of 6 months, maybe it's 6 weeks. Instead of 3 months, maybe it's 4 weeks, right? So you can just get them started. Now, I will say, you can even say this on the call, a 4 week commitment probably is not going to be a full transformation. But you could say something like, I totally get that. And I totally understand finances are tight. I would just hate because I know that this is going to work for you and I know we're going to get a ton done. We do work together. I would love to just get you started. What do you think about just doing 6 weeks? Because then we can just get you to a point where at the end of 6 weeks, we can decide, do we want to keep going? Are you good? Did you graduate? Like, I would just hate for you to leave with nothing today, especially because I know exactly what we would do these first 6 weeks. So you can do a downsell. And if they still say it's too expensive, then you know that it's actually not about the money, it's about the value. They didn't see the value in the program, right? So if you say, here, I know I was pitching you something that was 3,000 and I just lowered it to 500 and they still can't make the payments, even if you do a two pay or something, then you really know it's not about the money, it's about the value, meaning they didn't see the value. And that's okay. That's just like you talking about like, hey, like building the value. So looking at your offer itself, is the offer irresistible? Are they getting a lot of stuff for a little amount of money? Is that the perception that they're feeling? Are they like, oh my, this is like, I need to take advantage of this. It's just like the exact thing that I need. I can't believe I'm getting all of this. I don't want to pass this up. So you can go back to how are you actually packaging the offer? You can talk through maybe some of the social proof that you have, right? You can talk about other clients who have had success. You can say like, I recently worked with another mom who is postpartum, and one of the hardest things for her was X, Y, and Z. And we started working together. It was really cool because after the first couple of weeks, she started doing X, Y, and Z, and that's when everything changed for her. So I'm trying to pull out other potential case studies or success stories that I have with other clients who are similar to the person I'm speaking to. So, for example, if I'm talking about someone who's older and getting a result or starting their business, I might say, we have several clients that are in their 60s, which is true, by the way. And, one of my clients, my mastermind, has been with me for 4 years, and she started when she was 50. And at this point, she's, making multiple six figures a year. So you can pull out examples of different clients who have had success with different demographics. So whether it's an age thing, whether it's a postpartum thing, whether it's a mom thing, whether it's a busy thing, whether it's working a corporate job thing, if we can have a couple examples to be like, hey, not only have I worked with someone like you before, but here's exactly how she did what she did. And so we can pull out that to build the value. But again, if they say it's a pricing issue, and then you give them either an extended financing offer with smaller payments or something that's a shorter term commitment that's also cheaper, and they still can't make it, then it wasn't about the money, it was about the value. So then we go, okay, I need to build a value better next time. I need to get my offer to the point where it's irresistible. Like, why should they buy, and why should they buy right now? Again, I always think that if you're in the position of like asking skeezy questions on a sales call, like, well, this must not, because I hear these stories, y'all. Like, you guys are in my DMs all the time being like, yeah, I did a sales call with this person and this is what they said. And like, you guys are screenshotting stuff to me constantly. So I see these conversations. Like, I always think it's just disgusting when we prey on people's insecurities and we prey on people's vulnerabilities and sensitivities. I will never, ever, ever close a sale by making someone feel bad about themselves, ever. And if there is a conversation around urgency, it's matter of fact, like, it's objectively better that you start now than you wait for 6 months. It just is. And that's in anything, right? That's in building your business, that's in your fitness, that's in your health, whatever. That's objectively the truth. But that's not being used as a way to be like, you don't want to miss out. It's like, literally, no, I'm just gonna be real with you. Like, yes, it's objectively better to start now than it is to wait till the fall, objectively, because we know we're in the trust business and X, Y, and Z. So your conversation needs to be honest. One thing that I always think about is, and this is really important, and this is a good litmus test for you guys, is if this call was recorded, would you feel like, how would you feel if it was like put out into the world? Would you feel gross? Would it make you feel proud of how you handled something, how you showed up with confidence, with conviction, with honesty, with integrity? Or are you like sort of cringing and you want to kind of hide those conversations? You don't want other people seeing what happens behind the sales call closed door. And so I think that's just a good litmus test. And so these are all things to say that when you're on a sales call, and the reason why I'm having this conversation, I know it's kind of all over the place, is because sales calls are so uniquely personal. Could you have a sales script? Sure. But at the end of the day, you are literally just listening to another human on the other side, deciding if you guys are going to work together. And what does this person need to feel validated? And do they truly believe that you're the person who can help them? That's like really important. So oftentimes when I'm on a call with someone, I'll be like, especially if it's an FBA student and they're just like, I don't know. I'll be like, do you want to do this thing? You don't have to. Like, you do not have to start a business at all, right? Like, that's the first thing to realize. Like, first question to ask yourself is like, do I want to do this? And if they're like, I know I want to do it. And I'm like, okay, cool, awesome. So we know that you want to do this. So then the next question becomes, who do you want to learn from? Because objectively, you're not going to just learn this by osmosis, right? You're not going to learn this by just looking at people's posts on social media or listening to a podcast. Like, you have to learn from somebody. I learn from people. My mentors learn from people. So then the question becomes, who do you want to work with as your business mentor? That's it. Cool. It doesn't have to be me, by the way. If you connect with someone more strongly, or that you feel like there's a better coach out there for you, then please, that would be an important, choice for you to make. So I think when you have these sort of, I don't want to, I guess I can call them abundance, these sort of abundance triggers of like, hey, you don't need to work with me, but at the end of the day, you had to work with somebody. I work with people. My business only started growing when I started learning from mentors who were ahead of me, who had done more than me, who had more success than me, had worked through problems that I hadn't worked through yet. I don't know that you can learn otherwise. And that's the truth. That's how I truly feel. Maybe there are other people out there who can learn by just looking at stuff and, I don't know, looking at people's posts or whatever. But it's only when you get the mentorship, in my mind, and you learn the strategies. And any FBA student will tell you, like, they learn stuff they didn't even know they need to know. And they're like, oh, there's all these things I didn't even know to ask until they came up in our conversations. And they're like, oh, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And so all of that to say that sales calls can be a little bit nuanced, and it's another human who you're speaking to. It's not something that you can just put someone into a box and just say, when they say this, you say this. And when they say this, you say this. Believe me, y'all, I wish that I had a system that I could just give you and be like, when they say this, you do this. But at the end of the day, you have to feel the person out. Not only feel the person out about what are their biggest struggles, insecurities, what are their things that they want to create, their desires, outcomes, but also like, is this even a personality that you feel like would be a good fit for you and your business? The program you're trying to sell them to, is it even the right program for them? I've done this so many times. I get on the phone with someone or go back and forth on DMs. And the first thing I say is just tell me what you got going on. I don't even know. Like, why? First of all, I don't know anything about you. I don't know anything. I don't know what level of business you're at. Just send me some voice notes and give me some context. And then oftentimes I have follow up questions. I'm like, well, what about this? Tell me about that a little bit more. Because I'm trying to gauge, I'm trying to discern where the best place to put them. I went back and forth with this woman, like, and maybe you're listening, but back and forth with the same woman the last couple of years, right around legacy. And I was like, legacy is going to be the best thing for you. I said this in 23, 24. And then she just reached out again, like about a month ago. And I'm happy to have these conversations. And so we went back and forth again, sent me some voice notes, sent her some back. And at the end of the day, I was like, you need to work with Shantae. I was like, you need the Instagram intensive. Shantae's Instagram intensive is the thing that you need. So after all of that, I didn't even pitch my own program. I was like, what you need right now, like, yeah, do legacy in the fall and like, whatever. But right now, what you're talking about, your goal is, I can't help you with that. Go to Shantae. She's the best at that. And so I sent her over and I was like, here's the waitlist link. Join the waitlist. So it's like, I think if you are in your integrity and you're actually listening to the person, and, maybe it's an energetic thing. I just feel like there are plenty of clients out there. And I feel like, especially if you're in scarcity, it's even more important that you turn a client away because energetically, you need to create space for the best clients. And if you feel like you're trying to fit a square peg into a round hole and it's just not working, you're going to end up with a roster of clients that are not your ideal client just because you needed money. And so, all of that to say, don't forget that you have a say as well. And at the end of the day, I think when you show up to your sales conversations with confidence, with conviction, and understanding and a level of success and excellence that you can help somebody, being very discerning on what exactly you can help with, I think you are going to close way more of your sales than showing up with a script and some sort of, I don't know, some sort of plan for how you're going to sell this person. I think just listen and then show up in a way that's human to human and showcase the value. Do not coerce, shame, guilt someone into it. People don't like when that happens to, we don't like when that happens to us. You don't even like being the person who does that. And so don't do it. And I do think that there are plenty of clients to go around. I think there's plenty of money to go around. I think there are plenty of success to go around and happiness to go around, but you have to have a level of discernment. And I think when you do, you tend to attract the right people. Good. All right, y'all. Well, thanks for this conversation. It was a little over the place, but hopefully you have some insight on this. This is kind of like the energetics of sales. Yes, there's some logistical stuff that we can do, like the spouse thing and whatever. But for the most part, it's just really about you guys getting reps. And I do believe that as you start to become more confident in being able to deliver a result, because you just have had more clients, then you're going to show up on sales calls with a lot more confidence and a lot more, like of a body of work of testimonials, case studies, success stories, all that kind of stuff that you can then leverage into making sure you're bringing the right person to your business. Good. All right. Thank you guys for being here. Thanks for this conversation, and I will see you next time. Bye.